All right, ladies and gents. Nick Sirianni's first press conference is in the books. A lot of things to unpack here, guys. I'm going to break this down into some sections here. We got some answers about structure and clarity over the roster. We know who the play caller is going to be. He's given us some answers about the way that he is going to build the quote unquote, offensive identity. And we got a lot of kind of steering away from the question of quarterback, but I'll give you my input for what I could tell he was talking about here. All right, guys, let's get to it. What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is you get around to watching this. Once again, guys, my name is Steven Hyder, and this is Gate City Sports Channel. All right, guys, so Nick Sirianni's press conference. First thing I could tell, guys, is he was a little nervous at first. You could definitely tell he was fumbling over his words a little bit. He's definitely high energy. I can identify with that to where sometimes, my mind gets ahead of my mouth and I start fumbling over words. I could definitely tell that he's got that same kind of issue. Look, I think he answered a lot of questions, and then I think he kind of skated around a lot of questions. But, let's be real. Did some of you guys honestly suspect that he was going to give you answers right now about some of these situations? Come on, man. He's clearly not going to give you answers on some of the things that they asked. But what I want to do is get into segment one, and I want to talk about the things I heard him say about the offense in this coaching staff, and the things I wish that would have been said or would have been asked of him, because I don't think we got clarity, because I don't think some of these guys asked the right question. I think they were trying to get to the question, but I don't think they knew the terminology to get to the heart of it. So let me get into that. Okay, offensive identity. Guys, I already pointed it out to you in my last video where I talked about, you looked at the three separate quarterbacks, Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, and you looked at basically Phillip Rivers, and you got a wide variance of things that you could look at. You could tell that this offense that he had built in Indianapolis with Frank Reich and his guys there, you could tell that it was very much built around the player in the matchups, okay? Both from your personnel and the trouble that your personnel could give an opponent, and from the things that you perceived your opponent may have been weak at, okay? You could see those things there in between those guys, you looked at a guy like Andrew Luck, who basically never ran RPOs, he never ran play action, but he did go under center the most out of all the quarterbacks. You looked at a guy like Jacoby Brissett, which they were top 12 in the league in play action. They ran RPOs with him, maybe not crazy amount of RPOs, but they ran it with Jacoby Brissett, and they put him under center the second most. That was a completely different offense compared to what you got from Phillip Rivers, which was more of a moderate offense. He wasn't under center nearly as much as those guys, but he did work in some play action, and he did work in a little RPO, but by far those were not heavy principles of the offense under him.
We're going to be multiple. We can attack multiple ways. Andrew Luck as our quarterback, that followed up with Jacoby Brissett as our quarterback, and then that followed up with Phillip Rivers. Those three teams looked different. They were all different in their own ways.
He's going to tailor the offense to the guys. That's what he's trying to get people to understand. He's going to try to game plan for what's going on with the opponent. Is the opponent light up front? Can they be pushed around? Are we going to play two-back sets or 13-man personnel because they can be pushed around? Is the opponent particularly slow in the secondary? So can we take advantage of getting 11-man personnel out there and hitting them with some crossers and then building in vertical routes with those, working slant routes? He's going to work to where the advantage lies. That's what he's trying to get to. In addition to individual matchups, like getting Miles Sanders matched up on a linebacker, getting Dallas Goedert matched up on an undersized, safety. All those things he's trying to allude to get people to understand here. That's what he's trying to say. Let me get into this, though. What they didn't ask is what they should have asked. Okay, they asked him about play calling. Come on. You knew he was going to call play calling. Why are we asking that? It's a ridiculous question. We already know the answer to that. What I wanted to know was about input. I wanted to know about the input of the game plan. Who's installing? What is the install? That's what I'm getting to, guys. The terminology they needed to ask him was, hey, Nick, where's the install for the game plan coming? Who's going to be the guy? I think he gave them the answer without outright stating it, because he talked about how close and the fact they worked in the same rooms together when he was talking about Shane Steichen. So I think Shane Steichen is clearly going to be the input guy. He's going to be the install for the offense on game plans, okay?
Shane and I were in every meeting together, game planning. I know Shane for 3 years, for 4 years, pardon me. And so I know Shane thinks about the game the way I think about the game.
Although it'll be Nick Sirianni calling the plays, he's clearly going to be having he's going to be clearly having Shane Steichen lead the aspects of putting the game plan together. Okay? I do believe there will clearly be inputs from basically who's going to be his right-hand man, Nick, Sirianni's right-hand man, which is Kevin Patullo. He'll be definitely, taking part in this. And then you'll probably definitely get some input from, offensive line coach here, Jeff Stoutland will probably have some input to that. But Shane Steichen's going to be the guy that leads it. I wish that we would have gotten more on that. I would have liked to have known more about install, and we didn't get that. That kind of stinks a little bit, guys. I wish we would have gotten better questions here. I don't feel like they did a great job of asking questions. I liked what he said about Brian Johnson. I really liked the fact that Brian Johnson was brought in for an interview. There wasn't a lot of connections, and he didn't hire this guy because he had a relationship with one guy or didn't have a relationship with another guy. He hired this guy because of his answers to the questions. The fact that he felt like, look, this is a guy that believes in my core principles and my core concepts, which is, to me, scheme matters. He believes scheme matters. He believes offensive identity matters. But it's technique and it's matchup over everything.
Brian came in here and interviewed with us and just did a phenomenal job. Really sharp guy who really believed all the things that I've spelled out here with the core values. He knew how he was going to intertwine that into coaching. When again, I hate to go back to
It's teaching the fundamentals of the game and getting the technique correctly, and then identifying where you can take advantage of matchups. I thought that he was alluding to that about Brian Johnson, and that, to me, that set my ears on fire. I was like, oh, okay. Interesting to note that this guy was brought in for an interview. Maybe there wasn't as much momentum behind his hiring as we thought, but the guy just won it. He won it in the interview. So that caught my attention, guys. That was pretty cool. I'll get into some concluding thoughts about all this stuff, though, and tie it into a nice little neat bow. Concluding thoughts, guys. We should have known we weren't going to get the answer to the question everyone wants to know. They want to know about the Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts dynamic. What is being not said here that says a lot? And I think that's something you have to really pay attention to, that what I thought he was basically saying, for a lack of better terms here, guys, is that open quarterback competition is coming. That's what it sounded like to me. Like, hey, I haven't made a decision. I haven't reviewed the film, and I'm not going to make a decision on this stuff right yet. I've had conversations. I'm not going to reveal what was said because those things I view as being done in private between the quarterback and their coach. That's interesting to me, guys. I don't know which way he's going to lean. I couldn't tell you guys. I don't know. I think we're in uncharted territory, guys. Who knows? I can tell you this, both of these guys give me major concerns, and I'm really hoping we get the right guys in here to work on pocket fundamentals and also help with the game planning, scheming, and installing of an offense that is going to suit these guys, their abilities, right? To take advantage of their athletic abilities, take advantage of their arm strength, and to help them process and get the ball out quicker, more defined first reads, things like we saw kind of down the stretch, but someone who's really good at game planning this all the way through and creating an offensive identity around that and taking advantage of the matchups. Carson Wentz. You guys have heard it. I've pointed out to you. You've heard other analysts now say it. From the waist down, Carson Wentz was as flawed as any quarterback has ever been in the NFL starting a game. It was that bad, guys, and I agree. I'm not saying you can't fix this. All footwork stuff can be fixed, but it was bad. And you cannot go forward with a guy like that. He's got to fix it to be the guy. I can tell you when I look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, I like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts has talent. He only hit 40% of his passes on third down. He was really bad on third downs, guys. He was really bad in the second half of games. He only had like a 50-something quarterback rating in the second half of football games. He's got to be better at getting through progressions. He's got to be faster. That 3.11 second time to throw number, it's not going to work in the NFL, man. It's going to get you killed. Like, there's a lot of work to do here between these two guys.
Will you have a final cutdowns? Will you have final say over the 53-man roster? And then on game day, will you have final say on the 48-man roster?
Yeah, no, Howie has final say over the 53. I believe I have the say over the 47 on game that what we.
Let's get into the 53-man roster stuff and picking the game day actives, the 46-man active roster. I can help Nick Sirianni out there unless they elevate the 2 more positions back up to 48 because of COVID again, which I don't think is going to happen after the vaccination stuff, but then it would be 48, but it's typically 46. You can tell that the rules this year kind of messed up some of the coaches here a little bit. I'm going to say this, guys. I don't think anything I'm going to say is going to make someone who thinks that this guy's a puppet not be a puppet. I will say that the basis of your beliefs is nonsense. I'm just going to call you out right now. You're not presenting information that should be viewed in the way you're viewing it. I don't know ultimately if the guy's a puppet or not because we haven't had a chance to see this guy's the head coach yet. I mean, like, we're in like phase 1.1. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous to me because he doesn't have control of the 53-man roster. Because here's the facts. I only know of 4 guys who have executive control over their organizations. Okay, you got Bill Belichick, you got Andy Reid, you got Ron Rivera in Washington, and then you got Pete Carroll down in Seattle. I know one more guy who may get an opportunity depending on what happens with Kevin Colbert, the Pittsburgh Steelers GM, if he's only retained through the draft and then his contract runs out, so it's up in the air. Potentially Mike Tomlin could gain that kind of control, but that's not a certainty. So what are we really saying here? And even one of those coaches, it's a split responsibility. One of those coaches is a guy that's been coaching for longer than 25 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but has like 6 Super Bowls. And Bill Belichick. You're going to hand Nick Sirianni Bill Belichick level of responsibility and power? Come on, man. And then the other guy that I know of that has that kind of power and influence is Andy Reid, who, by the way, is going on his 3rd Super Bowl appearance. He's got 1 Super Bowl victory. He's been to 8 conference championships, and he's also been coaching almost 20 years, if not longer than 20 years at this point. You're not going to hand a coach that doesn't have that kind of record, that kind of responsibility. GMs control the 53-man roster on like 90-some% of NFL teams. That's the way it works. Like, this kid would have to show a lot in order to gain that kind of power. Even Andy Reid was baby stepped into that kind of influence in Philadelphia. Do I think it means he's a puppet? No. At the same time, does it mean that we still shouldn't be concerned about Howie Roseman's role in personnel? Kind of. I mean, yes, we should still be concerned, guys. But to be quite honest, it's overstated. Because, don't get me wrong, Howie has say. But that really comes down to your personnel department. And we've heard a lot of reports that Howie kind of trusted the coaches on certain instances more than the scouting department. So hopefully you got a coach that's better at evaluating talent, or Howie learned his lesson and starts trusting, the scouting department. I don't know how else to go about that, guys. Like, also, in addition to all that, it comes from the relationships that GMs build with some of the, agencies. So agents, essentially. That's why you look at something like the Rep 1 connection that was made back to Carson Wentz's agency. I mean, you could see that there was a connection here between Howie Roseman and Rep 1, and that's why you got guys like Wentz and Suamalu and Hollins and Goddard and Dillard and J-Jaw, who were all, part of that Rep 1 agency. So it's really walking a line between trusting your scouts, taking in advice you get from rep agencies, and being diversified in the rep agencies you're listening to, not just a single one, and then also listening to your coaching staff. And he's got to have to use wise counsel and be wise in his decisions, and he hasn't been that so far. I mean, anyone saying otherwise is nuts, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes going forward. That's to me what it lays down to. I mean, I'm not saying to have faith in Howie, but I'm also not going to say that we should look, negatively upon Nick Sirianni for something he had nothing to do with. Also, I would caution people to keep in mind, from my understanding, Howie Roseman is in the last year of his contract. And I'm not saying that Jeffrey Lurie would fire this guy, but, I mean, I'm also going to say that he wouldn't fire him either, depending upon the information he's getting, analyzing this, now being on another kind of coach here. Since Reed left, you got 3 coaches in here now. Like, you got to take everything and weigh it in. I mean, it's possible that this is kind of a, hey, man, you better get yourself together kind of year for Howie Roseman, and I think that has to be taken in consideration here. How much do I know about how he's going to set the 46 active? Most coaches set their active 46. To me, that would be a more clearer example of this guy being controlled. If he can't even have influence over the active 46, then that's an issue. That's a sticking point for me as well. Because mostly the way this works is on Saturday night, your coaches are going to get together with your executives, the front office, and they're going to explain their active 46 guys. They're going to tell them who's inactive, basically. And then they'll go over the scheme, they'll go over the game plan, they'll go over that kind of stuff with the front office. Okay, that's the way the things work, guys. So, that's it, guys. That's what I took away from this press conference. Let me know your thoughts. What did you guys think? He looked a little nervous, and then I thought he loosened up as they got into stuff that was more specific to scheme, more specific to game planning, more specific to coaching. You could see him kind of loosen up. You can tell he didn't want to talk about this Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts stuff yet. I mean, I don't blame him on that front either, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without anything else really left to say here, guys, I appreciate y'all. Y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see y'all in the next video.